Everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to continue our series on switchgrass. Today we're going to talk about planting. But I just want to make this note, there's a lot of ways to plant switchgrass, and there's a lot of people watching this that might disagree with some of this information. You know, they might say, hey, I do it this way and it works, and I do it that way and it works, and that's fine and dandy. But what we're trying to talk about today is the simplest, easiest, least amount of risk, best chance of success that we recommend to our customers. So if you go on our northwoodswhitetails.com, we've got instructions for switchgrass. This is pretty much what you're going to get. We've got QR codes on our bags of switchgrass. This is pretty much what you're going to get. Now, I just wanted to throw that out there because, like I said, we've gotten some pushback before on these videos and our instructions, but for the most part, this is what we recommend here at Northwoods for our customers using the RC line of switchgrass. That is all we sell right now. We do not sell Cave and Rock anymore. We do not sell any of these older varieties anymore. Just because this RC switchgrass is the newest, it's the best, it's the fastest growing, it's the tallest we've seen. That is why we're exclusively dealing with RC switchgrass right now. So let's get started. All right, number one, best way to plant switchgrass is to get good seed. Like I've said before, we sell RC switchgrass. I'm going to show you a bag of our RC beg rock. Now I'm going to show you a bag of our RC Tecumseh. Notice the seed labels, there's nothing hidden. We've got great germ, we've got very low dormant seeding, we've got great total germ. That is what you're looking for. You're looking for great germ numbers. We reject a lot of orders the last few years when we were buying Cave and Rock switchgrass. We've not bought Cave and Rock switchgrass, gosh, I want to say for almost a year now, that were anything less than, 40%. Or I'm sorry, if it had higher than 40% dormant seed, we didn't take it. We were looking for the high 20s, low 30s. But that's what you're looking for, because if you get a high dormant seed, you might not see that switchgrass for a year if it's that old variety of seed, some of those older varieties that you're being asked to buy right now. So that's what you want to do. You want to look at a good seed lot. This is what we're selling here. So if people ask to see the seed lot, we'll email them the tag. If you're buying RC switchgrass from Northwoods Whitetails here in 2024, the two tags I just showed you are what your choices are. We've got RC Chippewa coming. That's going to probably be here, I think, late February, early March. But if you're buying switchgrass, by all means, look to see what are you getting? What are those numbers? What am I putting on my property at these premium prices? So great start to a good planting is get good seed. All right, number two, let's talk about preparation. And what I mean by that is the preparation of the area. Okay, let's say this is going to be a switchgrass screen down here. How do we prep that? The very first thing I usually recommend is, if it's not a bean or a cornfield, is mowing it. If you've got like a horse pasture, you've got weeds, brush, get that out of the way. We usually start in July if we're going to frost seed, or spring green up. Very first thing we do. You want all that thatch out of there. Now, if you're using one of those big rotary brush hogs, the big cutters that go behind a tractor, those have a tendency to throw a great big, I think it's called a windrow. Like if you cut your grass, it's too high, you get that big row of grass. You don't want that. You might have to go over that a couple of times or get off the tractor and rake it. But you want that bare ground so you can start getting the chemicals working once the green up starts again. So if you're going to frost seed it, or you're going to seed it late in the year, you want to start this process. Up here in Michigan, we usually start this process in July, right away, early July. I'll take it down near to golf course putting green level. I'll have that cutter, the last pass is right on the ground. But again, make sure you don't have any thatch there. The other thing is that if you've got a lot of tall, like on a horse pasture, CRP field, one of the things you might end up doing once you're done mowing it is you might do one or two tillage passes, whether it's a tiller or a disc, just to break that root system up. Okay, you do want to encourage new green growth so you can start spraying, but one of the things I've done quite a few times is I'll mow it, I'll come back and till it, I'll roll it, and then we're going to start the spraying process. So if you've got a heavy root base, you might think about doing some tillage right after you do the mowing. Now, if you've got a bean field or I call it a chopped, some people call it cut corn, where up here we've got a lot of dairy cattle. They'll take the whole stalk, everything comes off the field, and all that's left is a little bit of stubble. You might not have to do any prep as far as mowing or tilling or anything like that. But if you've got a combine cornfield and there's a lot of duff, there's a lot of thatch on there, you might have to do some sort of disking, mowing, till something to get rid of all that corn thatch or get that under the ground and get a lot of the soil exposed so you can have those little teeny seeds hit the ground and not sit up on top of all that corn thatch. So there's a lot of things you have to pay attention to before you even think about planting, and that's the prep. Now, this is very, very important with switchgrass is spraying. When do I start my spraying? Okay, when you start your spraying, that is when it's going to be determined when you can plant. Right now, our information is 3 sprayings. Whether if you're going to frost seed, and again, I'm just going to use here in Michigan, northern Wisconsin, usually we'd be frost seeding in November or March when the snow is melting. I don't like throwing a lot of seed out on heavy snow because then there's a chance it becomes bird food, okay? Or it could wash away if it's on a slope. We had a real prolonged weather system here to where we didn't have snow until I think January 6th or 7th, something like that. Okay, that would have been a perfect time to frost seed this year in December, as long as you had your spraying done. So if we're going to frost seed, we're going to start our spraying regimen after we get done mowing or tilling or whatever we have to do for a prep, and that green starts to come back. We're going to look at 3 chemicals, simazine or atrazine. We're going to look at 2,4-D, and we're going to look at glyphosate or Roundup. Now, these 2 you can go down to Tractor Supply and buy them right off the shelf, Farm and Fleet or something like that. Simazine, we order ours from Keystone Pest Solutions. Atrazine, obviously, you need a restricted use permit. Now, people say, how much per acre? Simazine, you don't want to get carried away with that. 1 to 1.5, maybe 2 quarts at the absolute most. Okay, I know there's some information out there saying 3 to 4 quarts, especially if you frost seeded. Folks, that's getting too much. Okay, so and simazine is mostly going to take care of broadleaves. It's really not going to affect foxtail. If you've got a grass problem, we might have to look at a different chemical regimen. But simazine at 1 to 1.5 quarts an acre, 2,4-D, 1 to 2 pints an acre, and Roundup at 2 to 3 quarts an acre. And yes, you can combine all 3 of those. Okay, but the simazine, it's almost like paint. It's the consistency of some paints, so you're probably going to have your agitator on before and every once in a while during the spraying. You have to keep that moving so it doesn't settle in the tank. Now, if you're using atrazine with a restricted use permit, you could probably bump that up a little bit. Now, these rates, like 1 to 1.5, it's going to depend on if you've got sandier soil or if you've got heavier soil. If you've got heavier soil, you might have to bump just the pre-emergent up. That's not going to dictate, because these 2,4-D and glyphosate are both contact killers. This is a pre-emergent, so if you've got heavier soils, you might have to bump that rate up just a little bit. Now, that's going to be your first spraying, whether it's whether it's July after you're mowing or at spring green up after you're mowing. I dropped my pen. Now, your second spraying is going to be about 3 to 4 weeks later. We're not spraying this anymore. Now we're just going to do 2,4-D and glyphosate, okay? And as the weather warms in the spring, we're hoping a lot of those native grasses come up if it's foxtail or something like that, and the Roundup's going to take care of those. Now, if you got a lot of problem grass, foxtail, Johnson grass, and you're just struggling to get it killed, on your first and your second spraying, you may be able to add a product called clethodim. Now, that is a grass killer, and you don't want that on the ground 35 to 40 days before you plant your switchgrass. So you can use it, especially if you're doing the summer spraying. You can do it because those grasses, it's warm, the soil's warm, those grasses are going to be growing. You can absolutely do it in the summer on that first and second spraying. Now, if you're going to do spring spraying, like if you're going to plant in June, Hopefully some of those grasses are going to be up and growing depending on soil temperature, but you can add a little bit of clethodim to it. You might want to add a little bit of crop oil to that as well. And make sure you're done spraying the clethodim. And again, it depends on who you talk to, 30 to 35, maybe 40 days before that seed hits the ground, because this is a pure grass killer. But it will take care of a lot of those problem grasses. So your second spraying is just going to be this. Your third spraying right before you plant is just glyphosate or Roundup. That's all. Now, I usually wait a day and then we'll do our seeding, whether it's broadcast and rolling, or if it's drilling, you can probably do it the same day. There's some people say Roundup's going to kill the seeds. You know what? I don't even take a chance with chemicals, okay? I'll give it a day. Or if you have only that weekend to work, you do your spraying in the morning, seed in the afternoon, or spray at night, seed the next morning. That's, again, with switchgrass, because it's so expensive and it takes so long to get it right, I just don't want to take chances. So that's the chemical rotation. We are working on a completely different one this year. Hopefully we can get it down to 1, maybe 2 sprayings and even eliminate this. We're not really talking about it now, but it's some things that we found we're working on, and hopefully next year at this time we've got even better chemical regimen to talk about. But anyway, that's what we're sticking with right now. Now, one of the things I see people get into trouble with is the whole, they try to spray their way out of it. Okay, they want to frost seed right now, and now I'm gonna, once spring green up hits, I'm gonna Roundup, 2,4-D, Simazine. I've never recommended that. Okay, once that seed is down, I don't want to spray anything on it. Okay, and there's a lot of, well, it doesn't hurt it. Yes, it does. No, why take a chance? Okay, again, this seed is not cheap. You don't have the recovery time if you make a mistake like you do, like with oats or rye. You can put more seed down, and 8 to 10 days later, that's back up. This could take months to fix this problem, and it might take months to discover you made a mistake. Okay, if you go to the Northwoods website, there is no place in there that it says you can spray Roundup. We recommend spraying Roundup once the seed is down. I'm begging people, don't do that, okay? This RC switchgrass is so different than anything else you've ever planted before. In the right conditions, in normal conditions, and we did not have normal conditions last year. It was cold and wet and then instant drought. But under normal conditions, this stuff can pop faster than anything on the market. So why take a chance? And a lot of times when you're trying to spray Roundup, nothing's green. Nothing is growing. So you're not doing anything. It's the risk versus reward. It's not there. So, I know there's a lot of channels out there. I know there's a lot of information, and we get these calls every day. There's so much information. Who do I believe? Who do I don't believe? If you're planting RC switchgrass, whether you buy it from us or there's like a dozen dealers out there, this is the information you want. This is coming right from the gentleman and the company that designed RC switchgrass, and they do not recommend that, putting Roundup on your switchgrass. Okay, so if you've got a YouTube channel and you're out there telling people to put Roundup on switchgrass and it's safe to spray Roundup on switchgrass as long as the corn is up, folks, that is such bad information. Please stop. Because the problem is that when a customer, and I've seen this, a customer buys $1,000 worth of switchgrass, goes out and sprays Roundup on it because they followed somebody on YouTube, and then they're calling Northwoods, and they're mad because we sold them junk seed because nothing's growing. And they followed the YouTube star's information. They didn't follow the Northwoods information. And it's our problem to deal with, not the YouTube guy. So again, this is old information based on old seed varieties. I can't stress this enough. Do not spray Roundup once that seed is on the ground. All right, planting it. What's the best way to plant it? Well, the best way to plant it is whatever means you have at your disposal. The number one way to plant switchgrass, in my opinion, from everything I've seen and everything I've done with it, is drilling it. Okay, but most of you folks don't have access or own a no-till drill. Okay, so frost seeding works. It does work as long as you follow these steps. I can't stress enough, you need a weed-free plot, you need a clean area. Okay. Now I'm going to grab the Earthway bag seeder. I've done a lot of switchgrass. My switchgrass last year was done with this Earthway bag seeder. Okay. Now the one I really like, Earthway's come out with a second model, a new model. I don't know if I can get this on camera. So you can see this is adjustable. Okay. This is the model you're looking for. If you're going out to buy Earthway cedars, that's the one you want. They have a new model that's got, I think, 7 notches. And so you have notch 1, notch 2. I can go 1, 1.3, 1.5 with this. And what I found, what works the best for me, our switchgrass, when I'm broadcasting it, was 1. Maybe just a hair over 1. Okay. Now, what we'll do when we broadcast it, let's say we're putting a screen up here. This is whatever, a food plot or a bedding area, whatever. So we're putting a screen up here, okay? And I need 1.5 pounds to get this at that 8, 9, 10 pound an acre. I need 1.5 pounds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put half of that. I'm going to put 0.75 pounds, even if you have to get a little scale and weigh it out. I'm going to put 0.75 pounds in this, and I'm going to walk this way. Just keep going back and forth. And you might be thinking, nothing's coming out. I can't see it. What I'll do is as I'm walking, I got a couple of fingers down here and I can feel it. So as long as you can feel it, seed's coming out. Just trust the process. If that thing is at 1 and you've got a clean bag of seed, there's no sticks or whatever in it, the seed's coming out, just trust the process. Okay, so I got half of my weight going this way. Now I'm going to put the other half in and I'm going to keep walking this way until it's all gone. That's perfect coverage. Okay, that's how we do that. That's how we broadcast it. If you need to put 10 pounds here, I'd maybe put 2.5 pounds and do it this way, and then 2.5 pounds and go this way, and then 2.5 pounds this way. It's a long process, but like I said, folks, the seed is not cheap and you want to do it right the first time. So don't, especially with switchgrass, don't try to do it all in one pass if you're broadcasting. Now, some people say, well, can I put kitty litter or lime or anything like that in there? And I tell them, no, do it this way. Because if you put kitty litter or lime or anything like that, now I suddenly have to open that gate to a number 2. And now it's twice as wide as what I need. I have to get that kitty litter out or that lime. But now the gate is open to a 2 that's twice as wide as I need it. So at some point in time, you're going to have twice as much seed coming out. And as you're walking and bouncing that, all that little tiny seed quickly rushes to the bottom. I don't think that's a good planting method. The way I told you is what I found through the years of doing clovers, brassicas, switchgrass. That's the best way I found to broadcast it. All right, drilling it. I really like drilling it, but again, most of you folks don't have that ability. But when you drill it, 7.5-inch row center seems to work well. I think that's the standard drill. 1/4 inch at the deepest. 1/8 inch. I think a lot of people, we get those questions, and hopefully we can have. Wow, I'd like to run over to Brandon's with First Choice Food Plots. He does a lot of switchgrass, and maybe we can talk about how he sets up his Great Plains drill. I'd like to do that in the future. But a lot of people have run into, they're calling me, how do I get this deep? How do I get this set? I honestly don't know. I don't work with drills. But I've seen switchgrass plantings where it got to be too deep and it didn't come up. You got to be careful about that. But I think 1/4 inch is about as the depth you're looking for. So kind of keep that in mind. Now we're going to get into seeding rates. What is the pounds per acre? On our website, we recommend screening areas and bedding areas. Okay. And there's 4 criteria on the pounds per acre. Are you drilling it? Are you broadcasting it? Is it a bedding area or do you want to screen? So let's take this as a 1 acre bedding area. Okay. And in a video, I think the next video we're going to do is going to be on maintenance on switchgrass, and then the 4th one I think is we're going to try to talk about actually building bedding areas and what we recommend. But if you're drilling it, you're not going to use as much seed because you're going to have gaps in between the rows. So if you're drilling let's say a screen, you could probably do 7, maybe 8 pounds an acre, maybe even drop it down to 6. I know people that did 6 pounds, maybe 6.5 pounds, and they really like it. They like the gap in there, but they want it to where deer, A, definitely don't want to bed in it. They want it so thick the deer don't want to bed in it, and B, they really don't want to walk through it. So we might have a corridor opening down here, but the rest of this is a lot thicker. But if you're going to broadcast a screening area, there's a lot of criteria that come into place there. If you're broadcasting a screening area, you might go 8 pounds, you might bump it up to 9. And the reason I say that is there's a couple of things. Do you have a lot of seed predators, birds, mice, turkeys? Turkeys are a bad one. A couple years ago, we frost seeded some switchgrass here, and the neighbor's chickens came in and ate it all. So you got to kind of pay attention to that. You know, some people say 10 is way too much. Well, if you don't need 10 pounds an acre, don't use it. But if you've got a lot of opportunities for, you know, like I said, rodents, birds, whatever, to come and eat some of that seed, you're definitely going to lose some, so you might have to bump that rate up. That's one thing you got to kind of keep in mind on these rates, your situation and how you're planting it. That's where we got that 8 to 10 pounds for screening from. Now, if it's a bedding area, man, that's a that's kind of a loaded question. Again, so let's say this is a quarter acre, or I'm sorry, a 1 acre bedding area we're creating. We've got that wall around here at the heavier rates, but now on the interior, what are you doing? Are you going bedding pockets? Are you just going to do strips in here where you want some weeds growing in between because you want a little bit of food and diversity in there? You know, this could be broadcast anywhere 4 to 7 pounds an acre. You know, most people would agree that you don't want this heavy rate on the inside as you do on the outside, because then it becomes impossible to walk through. But this bedding area on the inside, if you take a look at it, you know, do I have bedding pockets? How many acres is that bedding pocket going to take up? So if I've got 2/3 of an acre total of bedding pockets, well, you only need 1/3 of an acre of seed. Or if you've got a half acre bedding pockets, you only need half acre of seed. So you could be 4 pounds an acre, you could be 5 pounds an acre. So that's kind of a trick question. And then the same thing with drilling. Drilling is usually 2 to 3 pounds an acre less on what I'm trying to do. So if I'm doing broadcasting on the screening, it could be 8 to 9, maybe 10, depending on the situation. If I'm drilling it, it could be 5, 6, 7 pounds an acre, you know, probably 6 to 7. But now bedding areas, it's going to be a lot less depending on what you're trying to do, how you're trying to achieve that bedding area. Is there bedding pockets in it? Are we, you know, skipping a couple of rows, trying to encourage? Is it a CRP mix? Do we have something else planted with that? It's not really a loaded question, but there's so many variables. There's 4 different criteria we ask people when they call us on how thick they should plant that. So kind of keep that in mind when you're purchasing seed, when you're trying to set up, you know, how many acres I need. And again, like I said, we're going to cover that probably in 2 weeks, how us or some of our partners kind of create these bedding areas with switchgrass. So hopefully I got some questions answered today. I probably have a lot of people out there with more questions. By all means, ask them in the comments below. You know, maybe that'll stir something for the next video. But yeah, if there's something here that you didn't get an answer to, by all means, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to help you. Now, we've got, last thing I forgot to cover, I'm sorry. Fertilizer. I get asked a lot, hey, so when I get my switchgrass down, do I fertilize it in the first year of planting? We usually say no. You can put lime down to get pH up if you got your pH is low, but we really don't want to see any fertilizer down just because we don't want any chance to encourage any more weeds growing. We want those weeds struggling as best they can. We don't want any weeds to be encouraged, so we really don't recommend fertilizer the first year of switchgrass. So again, hopefully this answered any questions, and if you've got questions, you can ask them in the comments below or reach out to us. Thanks for watching, folks, and I think the next switchgrass video is in a couple of days on maintenance. Thanks for watching.